I have attended 4 conventions from your couch this year. And if you don't know what that is or are just wondering whether it's worth your time and money, let's talk about that. Hi, I'm Navya. I'm a fandom psychologist, and this is my fangirl diary. So make sure that you're following along for insights on fandom, culture, and conventions. Let's talk about Momentus. Earlier this year, Momentus, along with their fearless leader Charlie Capon, introduced a brand new concept into the convention space, which is conventions from your couch. Now, the idea was pretty simple and straightforward. Conventions are expensive. And so we need a way to connect with our favorite celebrities, our favorite guests, without having to spend that much money. And with Zoom and with all of these like remote conference capabilities, we can now do that. So Momentus started organizing these conventions from your couch. And while that cannot necessarily replace the experience of going in person and seeing your favorite stars and talking to them and having these very, very amazing interactions, it does fill a need for certain people. First off, it's very much cheaper than going anywhere in person. Even if you were to just go to your local convention, your local Comic Con in your city, this is still marginally cheaper than that. Second, it's better for people with not only financial limitations, but also mobility limitations, accessibility limitations. Not everybody can afford to travel, whether that's time wise or finances wise. So, this helps with that because you still get to be in a convention like space without having to actually be in a convention like space. So the experience is pretty straightforward as well. The main chunk of it is like a panel. So you sit in like a 30 to 40-minute panel. You can ask a question. You can either raise your hand and then get a chance to ask your question in person with your video on and have a conversation in that sense. Or you could just ask it anonymously or just have Charlie read your question out, and then your question would be asked and answered that way. After the basic panel, there's almost always a meet and greet. So it's similar to the panel in the sense of everyone gets to come and ask their question, but you're guaranteed going to get picked because you have the meet and greet ticket. So you get to ask one question, maybe a follow up. It's a brief interaction, but it's a guaranteed interaction. As opposed to the panel, in which case your question might not get picked because there can be a lot of questions or there can be very few questions. And Charlie tries to pick ones that would be interesting to have answered up and about in the convention or in the panel. So far, I have attended the first one, which was Rachel's convention from your couch, which is absolutely perfect for her because she is a big advocate for accessibility and for inclusivity. And so the convention from your couch format is perfect for someone like her. She was amazing. I really had a good time. It was just such a chill vibe. Like you could ask a question. Some people went up. The conversation was flowing and interesting, and it did not feel forced at all, or it didn't feel driven by the questions so much as it was more just she was just talking about stuff that's happening to her and her experiences in her life, and that was great. The second CouchCon that I attended was with Shoshannah, and this was by far my favorite one because I don't get to see Shoshannah a lot online, and her CouchCon was also in ASL, so she was replying in ASL and communicating in ASL, and that was really great. So she also had a translator in at her CouchCon, and so it was just a great experience all around. And she's so hilarious, so funny, talented, and she's such a queen. Like she looked amazing, and yeah, it was a great time just being in her presence. Like I was so mesmerized by her. Like it didn't even occur to me that I can ask a question. So yeah, I really had a good time at Shoshannah's CouchCon as well. Like hers was definitely my favorite of all of the ones that I've been to. The next one that I went to was a Kim and Brianna CouchCon. And if you have seen a Kim and Brianna panel at any convention, you probably know what the vibe is like. They are amazing. They have a very natural chemistry that comes with being friends for a really long time. I popped a question in, but I wasn't gonna go on camera because I was literally sleep deprived and in a hotel room mid vacation when this CouchCon happened. But I still wanted to go. So I did, and I that's the thing that I really love. Like I was on vacation, and I could just take an hour out and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna do this CouchCon and see Kim and Brianna for like an hour," and that was a fun time. So yeah, that was great. And I really enjoyed it. That was probably my second favorite couch con, after Shoshannah's. But I mean, all of them were great because all of them have been women of supernatural. Because my fourth couch con, which was yesterday, was with Emily. So again, women of supernatural, you can't go wrong with them. They're all phenomenal. They're all amazing talents, and it's great to see them and hear from them, and ask them questions. Emily's one, I think I felt a little bit restricted because I felt like there was a big Star Wars population there. Not to say that there weren't any supernatural people in the room or people who belong to both fandoms, but I just felt like maybe the audience leaned a little bit towards the Star Wars side and a little less towards the supernatural side. Not to say that that made me feel alienated or like I was in the wrong room for whatever reason, but I do think that the conversation was a lot more geared towards Star Wars topics, and I haven't really seen that much of it, and I haven't really seen her in that much of it. So I didn't feel like that was the right place for me to ask a question personally. But again, I am a believer, if you've watched my previous videos, especially my convention videos, I'm a big believer in self-censorship over censorship. I know that Charlie picks and the moderators pick the right questions, and they pick questions that are interesting, and they try to have everyone's questions answered in some form or another. But I also believe in self-censorship. So especially when it comes to conventions and panels and asking questions. So if I don't have a question that I feel like would lead to an interesting conversation for everyone, the guests and the audience members, I refrain from asking that question. So I did have a question for Emily, which related to her appearance recently at Comic Con Wales and something that she mentioned during that panel. And I wanted to ask a follow-up question on it, but I did not feel that the rest of the room would enjoy that question or enjoy the response to that question as much as I would. And so I opted out of asking that question, which is again just something that aligns very well with like my personal beliefs. So when you have guests who are so widely represented in multiple fandoms, I think especially like outside supernatural, it's interesting to see how the room splits up into those different fandoms. And some rooms might be more supernaturally inclined than others, but it's a great experience all around. Are conventions from your couch or couch cons worth your money and worth your time? I would say yes. As a general answer, I would say yes. These are it's a great time. The money that you put towards your ticket almost always goes towards a charity of the guest's choice. So Emily, for instance, was raising money for Voices of Cancer or Voices Against Cancer, and so that's always a great thing to do. Like I like fandoms for good. I'm a big fan of fandoms for good because I think when a group of people come together and try to support worthy causes, that's always amazing. It's always amazing to put your money towards something that matters. So just off of that, I'd say completely worth it because you can go back and watch some of these online. I'm going to tag them below in the description so you can go and take a look at the couch cons that I've been to. And so you can do that. But why you should be there live is to first experience the magic of community and fandom. Because it does feel like you're with other people, you're in a room with other fans of who love the things that you love, and that in and of itself is a magical experience. The chat is always bubbling. When people come up and ask their questions, they're always so nervous and happy and enthusiastic, and you will get to see people with cosplay, and you will get to see people who are in their homes but they have like their paraphernalia out. So it's always amazing to see that, and even when people are not dressed up or have their figurines or whatever out, it's still really nice to have these people ask these questions. And some people who come on and ask questions ask really interesting questions, and have really interesting follow-ups. So yeah, that's always a fun time, and you get to ask your question if you ask it on time. So one of the things to keep in mind, try to like put your question early on up ahead so that it gets asked, or that you can come on and ask it. Other than CouchCons, Momentus also has a lot of other events. I've done some with Ruth Connell, which are more sort of like solstice events. I've done the winter solstice and the summer solstice event with her, which were really, really fun. These are set up in a similar way to CouchCons, but they are more interactive because they're fixated around a specific topic, like solstice, for instance. I know that they have done some other events in the SFF space as well. So if you're a science fiction fantasy person, keep a lookout for those. Pretty much everything is on their YouTube. But yeah, you can always just, even if you don't go, you can always just circle back around and watch stuff back on YouTube. So that's my take on couch cons. if this is something that you feel like you might enjoy, it might be worth purchasing a ticket to an upcoming CouchCon. And I know there's one that's coming up that's going to be a big hit, which is not, strictly speaking, it's not a CouchCon, but it is indeed a supernatural event with Jared, and he's bringing a friend to the fandom for the first time, artist Anson Gordon, and they will be watching the pilot supernatural episode along with everyone else who has a ticket. And there's a lot of cool stuff happening around that particular event. I know that there is an art giveaway, but there are also meet and greets and things like that. So again, if this is something you want to do, if you want to meet Jared and you haven't had the opportunity to do that, or you don't feel like you'll be going to a convention anytime soon, this is absolutely perfect for you. It is way more affordable. It's way more interesting and intimate than, just like a live stream or something like that. It is interactive and it's fun. And yeah, it's a good time. So CouchCons, that's a definite recommendation from me. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat below and I'll try to answer as many of them as I can. In the meanwhile, keep an eye out on Momentus and their page for upcoming events. And if they do something really interesting that I feel like I get asked a lot about, then I might just come back on here and give you my take on it. Until next time, thank you so much for liking, sharing, and clicking that bell.